when you said what are the issues, immediately in my head I was thinking, oh my God, there's so many issues. Like, where do we even start talking about all the problems women journalists face working in newsrooms that are mostly male-dominated?
Dito sa What the F, imbes na magmura, pag-uusapan natin ang mga maiinit na issue.
Bubusisiin at iintindihin natin. Mahirap ng maloko.
Makinig sa What the F.
Welcome to What the F, a VERA Files podcast. Here we break down issues that sometimes have us uttering, what the F? But cursing is a no-no. We only talk about facts. We are recording this episode 4 days shy of International Women's Day on March 8th. The International Women's Day is a global day celebrating women's achievements, as well as one that raises awareness about bias, stereotypes, and discrimination. A few episodes ago, we had 2 Filipino journalists who shared their personal experiences with harassment in their work life. And we talked about what's being done about the issue today. In this episode, we're going regional. We're having a similar conversation with women journalists in neighboring countries here in Asia. I am honored to be joined by strong women in the industry I work in and can't wait to hear what they'll be sharing with us. Our first guest is my friend Rajes Paul. Rajesh is a sports journalist in Malaysia who has nearly 3 decades of experience. She is currently the senior sports editor at Star Media Group Berhad, one of Malaysia's leading English news dailies. Rajesh, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Celine. It's a privilege and honor to be here with all of you all here.
Thanks, Rajesh. Our second guest is another friend of mine, Prateebha Tuladhar. Prati is a journalist of over 14 years in Nepal, having worked in broadcast and online media. She is a contributing writer for Nepali Times and teaches journalism at the Asian Center for Journalism at the Ateneo de Manila University in Manila and the Communication University of Zhejiang. Prati, we're glad to have you here with us.
Thank you for having me, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation because I feel like it's going to be a really important conversation.
For starters, based on your observations as well as personal experiences, what do you think are issues faced by women journalists?
I think the issues remains the same, but I think the degree of how it is being handled and how it comes to the fore, it's different. Probably around my time when I started, we can say it as a big challenge. Probably now, I think with many more women coming into the picture, being a mentor for those who are already in the line, it makes a lot of difference. So we have learned the hard ways so that we make it easier for those who come and join us in the later part of the industry. So yeah, if I can sum up in that way. So it has changed, but it's still there.
I feel like these issues are really subjective to the region and the countries that we work in. And when you said, what are the issues? Immediately in my head, I was thinking, oh my God, there's so many issues. Like, where do we even start talking about all the problems women journalists face working in newsrooms that are mostly male-dominated? And especially in a country like Nepal, where the number of women working in the media, not even just in the newsrooms, like in the media in total, is just 16% of the total number of people who are professionally working as journalists. And only 6% out of that 16% are in leadership positions. And we don't yet have like a single woman who's leading a newsroom as an editor, not one, not for the mainstream newspapers or television. I feel like that's where the issue begins, first with representation, and then that gives way to so many other things that becomes problems faced by women journalists at so many different levels. I'll pause there because I think we'll talk about the issues in multiple layers as we go forward in this conversation.
Thank you for coming in with data, Prati. And it's really sad to hear that there's really not a lot of representation in women in Nepal as in the media industry and also in leadership positions. Rajesh, do you find yourself to be in the same sort of environment in Malaysia where there's a lot more males dominating the industry?
See, actually, when Prati was talking about it, I wanted to highlight, yeah, it's a bit different here, Celine. Like in the Star generally, not in the sports desk, the part where I am leading, but generally, my CEO, Chief Content Officer, is a lady. Our news team is a lady. Except for business, Metro is a lady. There are many women who are handling, who have given that opportunity to lead. Having said that, just recently, our new CEO boss who came, he was taken around by my boss to introduce everybody. So when he came to my desk, the sports desk, during that time when he came, there were two other reporters at the desk, including me, and all three of us were ladies. So, and I told him, this one intern who has joined us, that's her first day. Immediately his reaction was, oh, this is sports. She must have joined because all the athletes are good looking, the guys, you know. So you still get that. I wish he would have said, wow, very good. Now that in the sports desk, you see many ladies who are there. You know what I mean? So yeah, the leadership is there. But still that perception is, you have to deal with it.
Also, if I may just add to
yes,
that,
go ahead.
I just thinking with Sport Bureau has always been sort of exclusive to men traditionally, right? Like it's only much later that women started working as sports journalists, or that's how I see the trend in our part of the world, like in South Asia. There's a lot of focused sexism in the way they portray sports in news, from the way the frames, how the camera angles focus on female body parts, to the way the headlines are written when women are playing or women are in the audience. And it's not very different in the way women are treated in the sport desk as well, because they're often seen as women who are more willing to be in that space where they're not, how do I say this? Like in our part of the world, the translation would be loose, but then it's not just confined to, the definition is not just confined to women journalists who work in Sports Bureau, but also to other beats. But I also feel like for women to be doing sport journalism has always been seen as much more challenging because of the way it demands their time and attention and focus in where and how the coverage is happening. So yeah, I just wanted to share that from my end.
I wanted to ask Rajes, how was it that you got into sports and landed as head when, like Prati said, it's usually male dominated? How difficult was it for you to get along with everybody and to be able to flex your muscles when you're competing with the guys?
In the beginning, it was tough, but I love sports. I love sports. From those days, I was involved in sports at the school, at the university level. So when there was an opportunity came, looking for a job, and they were looking for a sports journalist, I didn't know. Forgive my ignorance. I thought I will be involved in sports. For that, I realized that I'm writing about it, and I had no time to go and play sports. But anyway, that's another thing. But yeah, there were challenges in the beginning because you hardly find a girl in the sports desk those days. Like I'm talking about 27 years ago when I joined, and the guys will make remarks and they will send you to cover women's sports, not the main sports that guys will cover. But I also had a good boss, a guy, the one who gave me that opportunity to be part of the desk. The more that I tried to prove more than others. I used to be in the desk from morning. I'll go and get stories. I'll be the last one to leave, just trying to adapt and trying to fit in, But over the years, I have learned the trade of it. And I think they also knew that, I'm capable as any one of them at the desk. And I was bringing in big stories, scoop stories, So eventually they accepted as part of the team. But you didn't have to go through that, right? To me, it's the same. Whether you're a man or a woman, this is a task as you are treated equally. So yeah, I've there were many times, Elma, I felt like I wanted to give up over the years, but yeah, I stayed on. My father was my late dad was one of my supporter as well. He will take the newspaper and he will turn from the back just to see the daughter's name. He doesn't read sports, so he was a great encourager at the back as well. So that also helped, I suppose. Then yeah, here I am after 27 years, yeah, leading the desk and not doing many things that the mistakes that I've done before, but not trying to correct and trying to give everybody the equal opportunity. I have four ladies in the team at the moment. One is the page production lady, and three others writers. So, which is really good.
Did it help that you knew a lot about sports, and so they couldn't just, kick you to the side because you knew what was happening, or you knew what you were going to write about or to cover?
Yeah, it helped, Elma, but I didn't know as many sports as they did. But I picked up. I learned over the like cricket, right? Uh, I didn't know head or tail about it, but I learned. So I went to the field. I sat beside a person who sat beside me and drew the diagram and taught me about the game for 3 hours with me. Those are the efforts that you need to put in. I mean, nothing comes easy, whether you're a guy or you're a girl. I have to learn along the way. But I love sports, so I knew about football. I knew about badminton is the big sport in our country, and I play badminton. So nobody can cheat me too. So that helped.
Thanks for sharing your experience, Rajesh. And I think it's a sad reality that we realize that in the industry, there are male dominated beats, or sometimes there are beats where it's intentional that you send in ladies or women just so you have a better chance of getting scoops or getting interviews from people in high positions. We definitely have those in the Philippines. But I was wondering, what's the case in Nepal, Prati? Do you resonate with that?
So there is a definite beat assigned to women most of the time when they're entering the profession in Nepal, and it's common for most of the women I have talked to, and it was also the beat I started with, and that beat includes women, children, and culture. Mostly it's women and children, and for some reason, women and children like bunch up together. But for me, I also had culture on my list. Mostly when women start working as journalists in Nepal, traditionally, they're always assigned women and children, and sometimes culture, because these are seen as the softer beats, which they think women are supposed to be good at. And there's also sexism right there, assigning like women and children to a woman journalist. It's really difficult most of the time for women in Nepal to get into politics and business because these are not seen as beats where women are expected to do well. Most of the time, there's a lot of competition for women who try to get into reporting politics and some of these other areas that are seen as more male-dominated space, including sport, which is why I have so much respect for Rajesh because we're also talking about this when we met in Indonesia last year, and how competitive it is for somebody to be leading a sport desk. I think that's challenging anywhere in the world. But in Nepal, mostly the softer beats and then features and like human-led stories are assigned to women, and they're usually left out of these other beats that are seen as more challenging.
I could imagine how limiting that could be, especially for women coming in, knowing that they want to do hard-hitting journalism or want to go into breaking news, and you're relegated to topics that are assigned to you because of your gender or because of your sex. In the Philippines, we notice that it's usually covering the army, where it's women that are sent in to cover it, because especially if a woman is perceived as pretty or beautiful, that's how you get male figures high up in positions to get to talk to you.
Was it discouraged young ladies who want to get into the profession and learn that that's the situation?
I think if we talk about the way it works in Nepal, yes, I think it can be very discouraging if you know that you could be relegated to certain beats where there is no chance of growing within the newsroom for you. And then also what you just shared, Celine, about how it's almost like fielding women journalists to get certain things done, right? So there's sexism right there because you're actually expecting women to use their charms to get the story, right? And um, I think in all our experiences, like wherever I've talked to women journalists who work with the army in any country, we know how challenging it is. And there are always stories of how difficult it is sometimes um, to sort of maintain like a balance and a distance because sometimes we have incidents where we've been harassed by our sources. I have had an experience where I was harassed by somebody in the army when I was doing an investigative story, and I think most of us have had that kind of experience. But also I feel like what kind of beats we're assigned and how women are seen as being able to deliver or not deliver in those beats, I feel it's directly linked to the patriarchy because to be able to cover beats like politics or business, it also means you have to be able to rub shoulders with men, work out like long hours, like work late nights, right? Stay out a lot, go out for drinks, and just hang out with men a lot in very masculine environments. And for women in patriarchal societies like South Asia, it's very difficult for them to be able to take care of their families, but also to get out and do that in the social space outside of the home. So because of that, they're already left behind in the competition, even if they want to cover these beats, because it's really difficult for them to keep up with what men can do to deliver.
I remember having a similar conversation with a journalist friend as well, and she even went as far to describe it as, sometimes newsrooms prostituting their own women journalists. Just so as you mentioned, Prati, to use their charms for the job, to get information, to get scoops, to get interviews. Um, so we see that there is a problem within newsrooms themselves if they do that. But we also see that there is a problem outside in the environment that we are working with. Because I remember also another journalist sharing that, sometimes there are government officials or their staff say that, you need to send someone who's pretty because he won't talk to someone who's not. And that's the reality that we are working in. I wanted to touch on the aspect of competition that you mentioned, Prati, that sometimes it ends up being women are pitted against each other. Do you feel that women sometimes feel that they're in a snake pit within their own newsrooms or within their own industry just so they could grab what few spots there are available for women to do the journalism that they would like to be doing?
I think that competition is something that has been created because of the patriarchy again. I'll keep referring to patriarchy during the conversation. One, there are already so few women doing that job. So there are so few of us who are trying to prove ourselves, especially if you are being valued in a profession for the way you look. I think that competition becomes much more greater. So what I saw during my years working as a TV journalist was it's all about how you look, and you're usually not valued so much for how you think or the opinions you have as much as you are for how you look. And that's where the competition between women is sort of generated, and you're pitted against one another, because I saw that women journalists who were senior were always very insecure about younger women who were coming in to do their jobs, because this was a space where someone was being valued entirely for how they appeared on screen. And so instead of supporting someone who's young and who's just coming in and who's trying to prove herself, I think, senior women journalists that felt threatened by their presence. So that idea of support did not really exist. Whereas I think that if women really want other women to be successful in a profession as challenging as journalism, then we have to have one another's back, right? But I think you're right in what you said. Like, we have been pitted against one another because of how, especially like on TV, women are supposed to compete for their presence and looks. And I think that takes away everything that the profession has got to do with being intelligent. Whereas in print, I think it's slightly different. And maybe with print, maybe Rajesh, you have opinions on.
Because in print, you don't really see the face, right? We are the people behind the scene. We just offer the voice. I agree with Prati in that sense. Having said that, even myself, I have been guilty of that, Prati, Elma, and Celine. There were once an intern who joined us. She was really pretty. Oh boy. The conversation was in a way saying that maybe we should send her to cover this. It will be easier to get stories. Because that's what the society thinks so, and society believes so. But she was a very capable person. And I actually, after the internship was over, I hired her. And she's now part of our team, not for her beauty per se, but because of the hard work that she put in. So even I consciously have to tell myself, not to be part of that part, because it's easy to be influenced by the peer, the society that you are in, so it is the hard work. And I keep telling the youngsters that are there in my team right now, don't compete with men, you will never win that battle. Compete with yourself. How did you do last year? And now this year, bring it up one notch higher, they will say whatever that they want to say, but it's beyond your control. What you can control is how I can move forward, how I can be better, put that blinkers and ignore all these remarks or whatever that will come around.
Are there instances when the women journalists have proven themselves more than capable, and then the guys sort of treat them differently because they're insecure, because they're better, they show that they're better?
Watch out for part 2 of this conversation with Rajesh, Prati, and Elma in the next episode of What the F podcast.
Dito sa What the F podcast, walang murahan, usapang facts lang. Pakinggan kami sa YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast at Apple Podcast.